So yeah, I am a nature Nelly. I really love the great outdoors, but I'm I'm kind of a Nelly because I don't want to do things like climb a rock face, hang down by my fingertips. That's not me. Making little holes to put little pins in. I don't do that. And I don't want to jump off of cliffs with a rubber band tied around my ankles. Not me at all. I do like to hike a lot, and I like to be on the water. We don't have that here, but I came here from the Pacific Northwest. I lived there for most of my life. And up there are some hazards, and mostly there are weather. You could die of hypothermia. You could die of another person crossing you on the trail, and that has happened on occasion. And you could drown. Things like that can happen. But, we don't have a lot. We have 2 species of rattlesnakes, and they're on the other side of the state. And I lived in western Washington, the Puget Sound region, which is really nature-y. We've got 2 mountain ranges, and we have an inland sea called Puget Sound. And, I didn't worry a lot about, chompy, sharp, venomous things when I was Then I moved to Arizona. And for the first few months I was here, I really questioned the wisdom of coming to Arizona. It was a totally different landscape. I knew it was going to be. I knew it was the desert. Actually, the first day that I moved down here was June 24, 2006. And I saw surf in what is known as the Rillito River. And it rained and rained and rained and rained. And my first thought was, oh great. I just moved from a really rainy climate. It just rains all the time here. I got over that. And then, the landscape dried up and it became, fairly Martian. It was like moving to another planet. And for the first couple of years when I was out and about, in hiking or even in my backyard, I was scanning from a 5-foot radius, for grievous bodily harm. I found black-footed spiders, and I went to the Desert Museum and I learned about the, 17 species of rattlesnakes here? Mm-hmm. And 19 species of scorpions. It's okay, only 2 of them will kill you, but so make sure you look at everything before you pick it up, sort of thing. So I got over that. And this started, I have to because I really like being outside, and I'm really kind of nervous about the things that live outside because, when our paths cross, sometimes things can happen. So this, having to get over this, having to be a little bit of a butch in my nature Nelly self so that I could go out and enjoy things, started when I was 10, and my family visited some cousins of mine. They were actually my father's brother's family in North Carolina, and that was quite a trek for us. So we started in North Dakota. It was a 3-day drive with a trailer in the back and my nature abhorrent father, which is for another story, another time. And we came down to the coast of North Carolina, and I had a cousin who was about my age, she's about a year older, and we were on the beach for the first couple of days, and there was this crashing surf, and there was kids and little body surfer things going on, ice cream, and it was also awesome. And I was just really afraid to go in the water. And it was driving my cousin crazy. She was like, what is wrong with you? I was like, I just have a, she's like, what? What is the matter? Let's go. I'm a little bit nervous about the sea creatures, is how I put it. And I actually didn't mean really the sea creatures, I meant the sea creature, from 75. I wasn't allowed to see Jaws, which is good. I probably should never have been allowed to see Jaws when I was an adult. It took me a few years to really, really, really grasp the fact that a shark cannot, in fact, come out of the shower head, out of the drain. But I kept my eyes peeled in the shower, by God. I learned, every way to wash my face and my hair, keeping my eyes open the whole time. Hypervigilant. What Jenny said to me on the beach, though, to get me over this so we can get into the water already and have a good time was, don't worry about the sea creatures. I was 10, and it worked. I was like, oh. It occurred to me to just not think about it, and so I didn't. And for 2 weeks, we went in and out of the waves, and we got in way over our head, and I learned, navigate a riptide. I wasn't afraid of riptides, I was afraid of So, awesome some time, got home, and as I grew up and got into more different situations, hiking and stuff, I found it wasn't quite as easy as an adult to just not think about something, you know? You learn to hang on to things for dear life, whether or not they're helping you. And so, still like to hike, I backpack, I go outside in the woods, and occasionally I get myself into situations where maybe it wasn't something I would have chosen, for example. I worked in Alaska in the summers, in Southeast Alaska on Kodiak Island, named for the Kodiak grizzly bear. I was there for 8 seasons, and it was an area that was very remote. In fact, this facility isn't used anymore, it's been mothballed. And the only way in or out is by seaplane or boat. There's no roads. Because it's a bear preserve. It is home to the Kodiak brown bear, which may or may not be the largest bear in North America. People argue whether or not it's the polar bear or the Kodiak bear. Kodiak bear ranges from 500 pounds for a small female up to about 1,400 pounds for a large male. I tend to get a grasp of things, I tend to compare them to things with which I'm intimately familiar. I'm a very domesticated human being. I live in a city, I drive a car. My car at that time weighed 2,127 pounds, curb weight. My, by the way, 1991 Honda Civic DX 5-speed, which I miss terribly, 42 miles to the gallon. I sold it for $2,500, and if I want to get a car with that kind of mileage again, I think I have to spend like $40,000, so I'll keep driving my current car. Anyway, 400 pounds, were you with me? 400 pounds for the average size female, up to 1,400 pounds for the average size male. The largest Kodiak to be recorded, having been captured, killed actually, was 2,400 pounds, so that would be my car with me and a friend in it. These are cars, and they're predators. And Kodiak Island, where I was in this cannery, had a span of about half a mile, and from the village, where about 165 of us lived, the only purpose of this village was to service this cannery. We were doing salmon, by the way. It was about a quarter mile away from the fuel dock, which was my job, one of my jobs. I had to go out and fuel the boats. And so this dock would go from the cannery area to this, we called it the finger dock, a quarter mile away because, if something happens with this very primitive gravity feed system for our fuel, gasoline and diesel and oil, only one staff member and one part of the cannery go away. You could still, run the rest of the place. And then a little damage control. So one day I was going out to the fuel dock, which was connected by another dock running parallel to the mountainous side of the island and the sound. This is about an 8-foot wide wood plank. And I had been used to seeing bears way up in the mountain. And you would hear them, they make a lot of noise and they move around because they are cars after all. And they don't care who sees them or hears them, so if they feel like going while they're eating, they do that. They have no natural predators. So I'm walking out one day, and everybody has the day off, by the way, because there's no, it's a closure, so nobody can fish. So there's no fish coming in. So everybody's got the day off except for me because all the boats are in, so I have to go fuel the boats. And I'm walking out the finger dock one day between the water and the mountain, and I come across one of the longshoremen. So as I'm coming this way, this is his profile. That's the camera. And he's got a big grin on his face. Because he's been smoking, trigger warning, there's some drugs involved. He's been smoking something in the bunkhouse most of the day, and he is having a really good time. And so he's smiling. Matt, what you doing? How's it going? He says, there's a bear. There's always a bear, right? And so I'm looking. Up at the top of the mountain, I'm scanning. Not seeing it, not seeing it, not seeing it. I turn and say, dude, I don't see a bear. It's right there. Scanning. I got nothing. I'm like, you're high, because I'm telling you, there is no bear right there. And I was kind of aware of the fact that there were a lot of elderberries right where we were. Bears are very opportunistic feeders, by the way. And right about the time I get to the end of saying, I don't see any bear there, there is a sound, and there's its head. And these elderberry is coming out. Meditating. Translation, I'm right here, dumbass. And it was about there. If you are curious about what you would do if you come across 66% of a Honda Civic in your travels eating elderberries, I'll tell you right now, you turn into a combination of Porky Pig and Captain Obvious. That's a bug. That's a bug. That's a bug. That's a bug. And I'm backing up while I'm actually saying this very stupid thing. Matt's getting really good pictures. Right there. I have a brief moment where I'm thinking I should probably get him to come with. Oh, screw him. Left this scene and went down and fueled my boat. And he stayed there for quite some time, and I actually did see that bear head coming out a few times, going, while he was very happily eating elderberries. The reason why Matt is probably still alive today, well, at least he survived that day, is that the salmon were coming to the end of their run, and so the bears were pretty content. They had a lot of food, they weren't competing for it, they were eating salmon and elderberries and getting very fat and happy. My mother has heard this story. I told it to her about 15 years later. And she said, you know, you're supposed to have these little bells. There's these bells, and you have them, and you ring them, and the bears know you're there. And the thing about Kodiak's not having any natural predators. If they hear something like a bell in their vicinity, they're going to go see who the hell's ringing the bells in their territory. What is that? The other thing about the little bells is that really helps you to identify bear scat from coyote scat. The bear scat's got the little... I still hike. I really like it. I have trekking poles. And I use them to make myself into a quadruped for one thing, and the other thing is I have this idea that is some like kind of wild kitty cat thing like we have here. Is rabbit, you know, comes across my path, I have something. Because they're made of very sturdy aluminum, you see, and they have very sturdy, blunt plastic tips, and I could do something with that, I'm sure. So if you are, by the way, hiking in these wonderful trails we have here in Pima County, which I understand we have more trails here than any other urban county in the United States. That might be true. You have to come across a pile of scat with some broken up trekking poles in it. You can know that I really was having a great time up to that last one.